Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we are back with Mushoku Tensei, Season 1, Episode 21. I feel like we're, at a clean slate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because we finally have found some of our family, Lilia and Aisha, and they are on their own way and journey now, and we are separating, so we can go anywhere. We can see anything, do anything.
We can look for more family members. I mean, we've already found 2 safe and sound. Well, now they're safe and sound. I mean, I would say that it's this happy, positive feeling that I'm feeling, but that would be untrue in terms of the wellness of the other people that we are hoping to find. Because 2 of them we found, and we were able to save them, and they both seem to be in good health. But that doesn't really mean that Sylphie or Zenith are also going to be found healthy and well and alive.
Is the birthday present from Sylphie supposed to make us feel like, oh, inevitably, that's the next path that we're going to go down? Is that really the next character we are going to see or try to save?
Right. Is it a plant? Is it a foreshadowing plant that we now have just gotten this birthday present that Sylphie had gotten for us?
Yeah. Maybe?
Huh, maybe. Or it is that Sylphie is the one that is dead.
I don't think anyone's gonna die.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't think anyone was gonna die. When have we
seen death?
Soros.
Sweet. I feel like a fucking idiot from our intro. Aw. I'm just we're fucked if Ruijur's down.
Yeah.
A dragon? Red dragons.
This is where we first saw that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Cliffs just like this and with dragons.
Nice! This animation! Oh my god!
Oh.
Look at those calluses.
Ooh, I don't like this dialogue for what we saw at the beginning of this episode. I really don't like it. Don't get conceited. You're a warrior now. I don't like it.
How are we supposed to act for the remaining of the episode knowing what's to come? Maybe it's already happened. Maybe it was a dream.
Yeah. We've already been reborn.
God, I can wait. Perugius was the armored dragonite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damn! Oh god. Oh, fuck.
Rudy!
Oh no. Haven't met them yet. Can he see the future? He can like see what's what's supposed to come.
So then Rudy's an outlier
Yeah.
to what is meant to happen.
Music. Fuck off!
It's like Rudy was like word vomiting there. What was he doing?
An apostle of the man god. Holy shit. Oh! Oh shit. Disturb magic. Can you shut it off? Oh, he only could do it in one hand.
Propping himself up.
This is the best episode of Mushoku Tensei. Holy shit. Holy shit. Wormgate. He can't use it to heal. Ghislaine. Maybe he's fucking man god.
Oh.
Alright, let's see what you have to say. I feel like you owe us an explanation, my dude. And I'm good. Maybe you couldn't see it.
Curse.
変なのがいるんだよ。彼は他にも3つぐらい呪いを持ってるけどね。エリスが怯えていただろう。あれも呪いの一つだ。怪物に嫌悪されるか恐怖される。
みんなに嫌われるのか。なんていうか嫌だな。あいつのことを
It's probably why he was suspicious.
から来たからじゃないかな。恐怖の呪いを槍に移してそれをスペルト族に。
Interesting.
呪いなすりつけた。
もう消えかけているんだ。ルイジェルト自身にもまだ少し呪いが急速に薄れつつあるしさ。
なんで。
髪も緑だったからさ。
呪いってそういうものなのか。
Put it onto something that resembles you?
まあ何にせよ君に
無駄じゃなかったってことか。それならよかった。
いくつもの呪いで制約を受ける身でありながらね。
七大列強の2位だよな。
死んだけどそれでも本気で戦えば勝つのがうるさい。
Interesting.
本気になればこの世界だって滅ぼせる。本気は出せないんだけどね。
何を隠していても俺は人はこういっぽいし、この間もお前のおかげでリーリャ多少嘘をつかれたところで気に。
Rudy
What are a
does seem
few
different
lies
today.
next to that?
最後だしな。
最後
こういう時ってどういう感じでいけばいいんだろうな。
じゃあ君に朗報だ。
え？
死んでないよ。
There's Orsted's colleague, right?
Maybe.
Cole's gone.
その何か言ってたのが治癒魔術でナホシって言われてた。
Nanahoshi.
七星。
What animation?
おかけしました。本当よ。
Turning point
Two.
two.
The first one was when the mana disaster happened, right?
No, I think it was when we were on the ship.
Okay, that was Mushoku Tensei 21. The first one was the mana
The
disaster.
disaster.
That, hands down, might have been my favorite episode of Mushoku Tensei.
Are these like little arcs between turning points?
It's like shit's gonna go down when you get to a turning point. That's what it seems. But
Your whole life's
Okay.
gonna change
So,
in some aspect.
it's interesting, right? I don't know if it's what the show is making me feel or if it's what fiction or anime is making me feel. I didn't have any actual like fear of character death here, at least in regards to Rudy. Like I'm like, okay, he's the protagonist,
At least in
right?
regards to Rudy. Okay.
But I was like really curious as to see what this show or this story would have to offer to go up in stakes and information that could be on the same level as something as serious and impactful as death or almost death. And I cannot think of in my wildest dreams a better one for one here. Like, we met arguably the strongest character.
The character that could literally destroy the world, but is being held back.
This episode did so much for us in regards to like lore, answering a few questions, and giving us a lot more. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, going away, like coming out of this episode is the most human and less deity-like man-god has ever felt to me. Like, after seeing Orsted and then the interaction with Rudy afterwards, I'm like, man-god's just another dude at this point. Like, I'm not doubting his power or anything like that. We've seen what one of the, seven? Or, like, are capable of.
Yeah.
But
I think this episode did.
holy.
You're right about like this giving a lot more, maybe even just understanding of the lore, connecting some things. We got some names that we had received in the first couple episodes. Like once we traveled and met Eris, Laplace, you know, we get that name drop here. We get somewhat of a connection, more of an understanding of how he could be connected to Rudy and to everything that's going on. We have a better understanding of the actual power scale
Yeah.
of this world, and where Rudy Eris and Ruijerd are on that scale currently, which we had met Ruijerd and we had thought that who could beat him, you know? That was kind of the feeling that you had over Ruijerd's character, is that because he was a Superd, which everyone fears, and rightfully so because he's really freaking strong.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even come close to these 7.
I am so glad that they had the foresight to accompany us with as much information as letting us know where Ruijerd even stands and how powerful this character is, with such great animation too, because that's what sold it for me. That's what like took it and went like all the way. There was a I'm sure we're gonna get to it, but there was a term that Orsted used when he summoned what looked like a dragon artifact.
Oh, Wormgate.
Wormgate. It's either I'm having like an intense deja vu of some other fictional world or anime.
I've heard it before.
Worm. Like W-Y-R-M.
Yeah.
And I cannot put my finger on it.
You can't place it.
I can't.
It felt very familiar to me as well when you said it.
I don't know
Maybe it's just a common term for summoning like a gate of sorts for magic.
Maybe. But that's gonna kill me. But there's so much I want to talk about. And I feel like this is an episode of Attack on Titan or something, because I feel like the only way to do it's going from the start of the episode, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, true. That's cool.
So starting the episode, of course, we get like the what's to come, which in my opinion solidified that everything was gonna be okay from a narrative point of view. Like you only do the like 2 days before if it's not going to be the finale. It's going to be a rising point in the action, but it's not the crux of the narrative.
And how things were framed and edited, we literally get death, and then we get, you know, prior, and this dialogue that would obviously be, now that we're already thinking about, oh, eventually there's going to be major injuries. That we start to take the dialogue with that kind of tone of, this is foreshadowing of what's to come. And then it like hurts that much more to hear the dialogue, which is really interesting to like create. Because if you didn't give us that first visual, that first instance of what was to come in this episode, we would have heard that dialogue and just been like, possibly we would have taken it as some form of, oof, I don't really know if I feel an easiness with Eris saying these things and her being a warrior now and don't be too conceited. I maybe wouldn't have had such a strong feeling about it. It's possible I could have been like, ooh, that makes me a little uneasy to hear those things.
Yeah.
But since we got the editing how we did and the framework for the episode how we did, everything that was said, I was like, all of this like hurts now.
Yeah. So even before we get there though, like starting out the episode, there's I don't know if I've ever watched a show that I am more intrigued and impressed by their use of frequency and magic when it comes to not fighting. And in fights, don't get me wrong. But like starting the episode off when we're like hearing the sound, like the intro, right? We see Rudy giving the horse, who is probably a descendant of Caravaggio.
It's not a horse.
What?
It's like
in the intro?
No, it's not a horse.
I thought it was.
It's their cattle thing.
Fucking lame. No, I'm just kidding. But you're healing him using your healing magic, and then you're giving him water using your like. I just love like the attention to detail. Like it's so unnecessary, but it just adds to the world building, because like while this is happening, a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can see Eris admiring flowers, but kind of side-eyeing what Rudy's doing, which is like just another piece to the puzzle of her overall like admiration towards him, and like she's paying attention.
More example to chalk up to that she might have too big of an idea of how powerful Rudy currently is and what he could accomplish. Yeah. Which we get a dialogue later that kind of reinforces that even more.
I just love how like she is so observant and aware of what Rudy is doing and what his character is, that in moments that we get later on that are that one could mistake as reverting back to his awful previous like, you know, bare bones self. Like it's still a piece of him, right? It's not good, but it's like still a piece of him. And Eris knows that it's a piece of him to a much bigger puzzle now, you know? That is him caring for life and wanting to save people and, you know, help his friends and family out. We get them sitting by a campfire, which is one of your continuous favorite themes in this entire series.
It is one of my favorites.
And that goes right into the fight scene, which I was like, oh my god, this animation's different. This is so good. It's like the entire Rui Jerd Eris fight was so perfect, and we got to see so much going on in it.
My favorite part was the sound effect of Rui Jerd pulling his spear out of the ground, which I think almost showed, just by the sound effect of it leaving the ground, how much force was used to push it and how deep it might have been in the ground.
Yeah.
Just by the sound of, like, pulling it out.
Like the deepness of it.
Yeah, so that was really impressive.
My favorite part of this whole thing was the narrative. Like, it was telling a story during a fight, which is, on one hand, impressive to do, but usually occurs in a serious fight that will probably last anywhere from, like, 3 minutes to around there in an anime or, like, live action, whatever. Because, like, in choreography, like, in fight choreography in movies and live action stuff, sure, you're trying to make it look impressive, but really good work is done by being able to tell a narrative during that fight. And what I loved about this fight was that during it, and during these movements, you can see every single one of Eris's expressions. Like, Rui Jerd isn't, like, as much, but he's still expressing. Like, he's, like, smirking, he's kind of impressed, he's enjoying himself. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Eris, like, she's trying her ass off, of course.
Yeah, she's trying her absolute hardest.
And I'm loving that we're getting, like, actual clear moments and visuals of her face. But the best is when, like, she's deflecting certain shots, and it's coming up here if I can find it. So, like, she's getting surprised by a couple. You can see sweat droplets. You see how her eyes widen and express. She's barely, like, dodging anything. She starts to smirk. Good. After she, like, blocks a second attack from Rui Jerd, she starts to smirk and get a little, like, overconfident or just confident in herself and her abilities. She knows, like, how much she's grown and feels like she's actually, like holding her own in this fight. Yeah, she knows
she's doing a good job.
And then Rui Jerd just, like, ends it basically there. Mm-hmm. But I love the telling a story during a fight, which then, like, is the cherry on top of Rui Jerd's dialogue being like, you're a warrior now.
Yeah, I mean, that fits so much better now that we're, like, talking about it, with the choice to stop the fight in this way, because it's not as if they needed to stop for any reason other than whatever she did there proved to him that she was ready to call herself a warrior.
Yeah,
you know, the fight didn't need to end because he was like, oh, you know, this couldn't go on any longer, or I'm just gonna finish it off now and show her that I'm still stronger.
Yeah,
it was purely like, I've seen what I needed to see, you did a good job, let's end here for the night.
Yeah, and the idea of, like, I'm not saying that you're as good as me, right? Or anywhere close to it, but I'm not going to treat you like a kid any longer. I'm, like, we're going up to a different level.
Which is a great dialogue piece from Rui Jerd, and the idea, I'm not going to treat you like a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Because of what we know of this character and his treatment of children and this coddling he has towards them, this over defensiveness, which is honestly probably one of his best virtues.
Yeah.
And why bringing him on and helping his reputation was so easy is because he has such an actual kind heart.
Yeah.
And wants to defend. But then he also is admitting here that not all children are so weak that he has to protect them, like, you know.
Yeah,
that I think that's been something that's been broken down for him since meeting Eris and Rudy, is that kids aren't just weaklings that need him to protect them, that he can be a team with these kids. And
he can trust them a little bit more. He can
trust them a little bit, and he doesn't have to coddle them and do everything for them and protect them so much so that they never grow. He needs to be a friend, a teammate with them and watch their growth and help them grow to be even more capable.
Yeah. You a few minutes ago talked about, like, what this made you feel like potentially for what was to come, like that acknowledgement of Eris. Mm-hmm. If if we did not get the opening scene that we did, I would have thought in my head that the possibility is there that something bad will happen, but when that bad thing happens, it would be at the cost of Eris's life, and she would have a moment with Ruijerd, who is down and beaten, where she's like, well, I'm not, like, I'm a warrior now. I'm not just a kid anymore.
Stop.
And then, like, it goes very south, and I'm so glad that
There was
that
a
did
trick.
not happen.
There was a trick like 5 minutes later in the episode that made me think, ooh, okay, this is where that whole Eris don't get conceited is going to come into play. And that was her being like, look at the dragons, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I want to go there. And I was like, oh my God, is that what we're doing?
It kind
and
of
that's how
was.
we're going to meet the guy, is because maybe he defends the dragons and you're not allowed, maybe there's like a hunting law against them and you're not allowed to kill them. They're like endangered species. I don't know.
This is my pack. You don't.
Yeah, like, exactly. So I thought she was going to be leading them into disaster by an overconfidence and I want to go kill a red dragon.
I thought it was really good foreshadowing for the dragon that we were introduced to later in the episode, you know?
Oh, yes.
Like, rather than it being the
I
obvious,
want to go defeat
like,
a dragon.
Yeah, rather than and showing the actual might of the dragon by giving us enough, like, knowledge that, oh, a lesser of the 7 would turn back here. Only, like, the best of the best could handle fighting more than one. Then we met the best of the best and saw, like, reality check, you know?
And we even hear Eris in this conversation be like, yeah, but if I couldn't handle it, Rudy would then step in and handle it. So she might have like tons of confidence in herself and her own abilities, but she has Rudy like up here as this like miracle boy.
Yeah.
Like that down on his luck, like in the worst of situations, she has this like faith in him, which I don't think is totally unfounded that she has a faith in him.
Yeah.
That he could just pull out every ounce of like mana in his body. And obviously we see something later on that's similar to that starts to kind of crack the armor, if you will, of the opponent.
Yeah. I wonder what it would have done to us and how we would have felt if we didn't get the first 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Like,
right, I know. It so totally set a tone. And like I said, I don't even know if I would have taken any of this foreshadowing dialogue as seriously, and I wouldn't have had the same feeling I did hearing it. So it was totally intentional to have me, the viewer, feeling like this whole episode. Like, oh, when's it gonna happen? Okay, it's gonna happen. Which is such an interesting choice when things like that are used.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's just really, really, I hate the word interesting, but right now it's the only thing coming to my mind. It's a choice that is totally on purpose to give a what's about to happen flash forward before things. And I think sometimes I wish that it wasn't given to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times I'm like, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay, and then we get the, alleyway? Like, the path forward.
It reminds me of something I've seen in not real life, like I've been there, but it exists in nature, and I've seen like videos of this pathway that's actually like really dangerous to walk on, and it looks very, very similar. I don't believe it's in a snowy environment, but this looks exactly like something that I have seen, and I can't remember what country it's in. If I'm sure someone else might be having the
It
same
reminds me of
thought.
Sword Art Online.
Okay.
For some reason.
I mean, I could see that too, but I'm in real life. There is an existing road along a cliffway that is reminiscent to this to me, that is very dangerous to traverse across.
Yeah.
But people still do it.
So immediately, the thing that puts Eris and Ruijerd into the moods that they are, into the fear that they have, is the curse that is on Orsted, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh. It's like they sense him before he even comes. It's like this, it's like they have the kind of, he has the foresight eye, but it's like they have a feeling of foresight of like something bad's about to happen, like this danger sense in the environment. Like you can barely even see that there is anyone coming by the time that they stop in their tracks.
Yeah. He immediately is able to recognize Ruijerd and Eris.
because they are of this world, and I'm guessing he has some power to see past and future, or at least future.
That is at least, like, somewhat akin to man gods, right? Like, seeing, like, moments in time potentially before they happen. Hell, it could be, like, the most advanced state of Rudy's eye. Because, I mean, if we're talking, like, visual symbolism, we could have visual foreshadowing of Rudy trying to use his demon eye right here, and just, like, he's, like, overwhelmed by it.
Not even fast
honestly.
enough.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm just glad to know that no matter if Rudy existed or not, Paul is still Paul. And Paul is still gonna cheat and have 2 babies.
Yeah.
2 little girls. And that's all Paul Greyrat's supposed to have, according to Orsted.
Yeah.
Which okay. But even 30 seconds before this interaction that we're talking about, how did you feel about Rudy just turning and not only making eye contact with this guy when he's, I mean, come on, dude. Like, look at Eris and Ruijerd's reaction to this man. Why are you even, like, turning and trying to make a conversation? Like, that just, it felt so silly to me watching this. And Ruijerd even says, don't move a muscle. And I'm like, Rudy, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yo, you see, like, your trusty steed that you've,
Just
like, given water?
Jumps off a cliff.
I'm not gonna lie. My interest would be piqued.
I don't care if your interest is piqued, but the 2 people next to you, your 2 friends that you trust, are obviously terrified, and this is a suspicious man. Why are you turning and trying to make a conversation and asking questions to this guy? Like, there is, if anything, that don't be over-conceited, overconfident line could be put onto Rudy here, because I'm like, hey, dude, danger. Do you not have a sense of it?
I don't know. Just because somebody's, like a threat, a potential threat, right, doesn't necessarily mean death. And
But
like,
there's such a casual energy here, and I'm like, is he not? We weren't getting an inner dialogue of the why he was making the choice he was making. Like, maybe he was like, ooh, maybe this will be the best course of action in this conversation, because that's normally how he thinks.
Yeah,
he's specific with how he acts and how he talks to different people. So maybe he was doing that internally, but in this moment, I was just wanting to shake him and be like, why are you doing this? Because if anything, he truly does lead to what happens to them.
Sure.
He makes it happen.
But, like, okay, don't move a muscle. You see that, like, firstly, like, the boar running, I get reacting to it, but also, you're not as, like, physically attack-centric capable as Ruijerd and Eris, right? I'm a mage. I'd want to know what is potentially coming at me, too. Like,
they're walking away. Look how far they've already gotten.
No, they're talking. They're not walking away. They're addressing Ruijerd and Eris and you. I don't know who you are.
Exactly. Okay, are you telling me if a really suspicious man that the people around you was scared of said, like, new information about you, you would then, like, poke the bear? No. You would not poke the bear.
No, but given the context that happens, perhaps. Because let's see the sequence of events, right? Like, is that Ruijerd Supertii here? That
Which only happens because
Rudy
is moving a muscle.
Is that Ruijerd Supertii here? Because he talked, right? He said, don't move.
Yeah, but he talked because Rudy wasn't being scared like his friends were.
Was he?
No.
But because he said, you too, Eris. Like, it was just, like, giving general advice. And then Rudy moved after that. And then after Rudy moved, he looked back at these people, and his, eye of foresight seems to be incapable of doing anything after Orsted turns back, right? After he tries to lock eyes, it's like, he can't handle it. And then Orsted is continuing the conversation, and I don't recognize. The conversation's already started.
Yeah,
Rudy wasn't chasing him down.
How about you try to end it early? You could just be like, oh, you make up a name. Don't even say your real name. I don't know. Why do you need to know why this man knows them? Just get away.
I mean,
It's cool. You're curious. Like you're curious.
Curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah.
The cats have 9 lives for a reason.
Well, it's cool that Rudy has multiple lives, but he put Eris and Ruijerd's lives at stake here.
Well, you don't know necessarily, right? It's just a feeling that Ruijerd and Eris have, which we touch upon later, too. Is that feeling of that making everybody else afraid? That's something you can sympathize with, right? Like, hell, if you're gonna ignore everybody who makes you afraid, Ruijerd might never have been on the team. Like it's worth talking about.
In the future, at the very end of this episode, it seems like this could be fruitful for the story. I'm purely just talking about how this was kind of stupid on Rudy's end to engage so calmly and comfortably and forthcoming with this stranger.
So, perhaps.
With this dangerous stranger.
I don't know. I agree with you, but I think that's why I like Rudy. Because it's like...
I'm not, coming at it from I don't like this as a story point. I'm, as a concerned citizen
of a
character that I kind of care about now, that I'm like, dude.
I think I would be with you if the sequence of events were different and Rudy didn't act after certain words were spoken. I would feel how you did if no talking happened other than Ruijerd was just don't move a muscle. They started walking away and Rudy's like, oh yeah, by the way, I want to meet you guys, but that's not what happened, right?
It does seem like he does continue, Rudy is definitely an active participant.
Let's watch how it plays out, right?
Continuing this conversation. Okay.
I'm
just making it clear, I'm not against this happening. I don't think it was bad for the story. I just want them to be safe. And so This is purely just an emotional rant of don't open the door.
Yeah. Don't go in there. Don't go in there. There's a monster in there.
Just let's walk away. Let's not engage with this suspicious man.
But okay, if you're on that train, you might as well be talking to Ruijerd too, because Ruijerd engages. I think Ruijerd's engagement here, if I am Rudy, is the reason I engage more. At first, okay, he's saying their names. Maybe he knows them. Maybe Ruijerd knows him in the past, and that's why I shouldn't say anything. I'm on board. But the second Ruijerd even is who are you? How do you know my name? Then it's okay, question marks everywhere. How come you know mine too? Nobody knows anything here. I didn't expect to encounter you here, but it's not important.
And then he turns to walk away.
Isn't it?
I can't do anything about it now. He wasn't gonna act. He wasn't gonna do anything, He wasn't gonna kill Rudy here. He literally says, I can't do anything about it now. Excuse us. And then Rudy fucking goes, please wait.
Yeah? Who are you? Oh, hello. My name is Rudy Escraver.
God, if he was my kid, I would not be able to handle it.
You'd have Ruijerd's reaction,
I
right?
would just be crying and feeling defeated at all times. I couldn't protect him from stranger danger. He'd get lost in the grocery store
he has the thing about him that some protagonists do that are he breaks the standard. It reminds me of Goku, right? You're who the fuck are you? You're stupid, you're crazy, but you're lovable. You have this charisma to you that at the end of the day, it's infectious to people. And I think that that's the standard that Rudy puts forth going forward too.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But as a concerned citizen, it's not.
To start with, would you tell me your name? Orsted. Do you know the two of them? He's inquisitive, right?
He's inquisitive, and he's kind of using that whole childlike innocence, questioning,
I haven't met them yet.
Purpose.
What do you mean?
Okay. But he's totally trying to, he's digging information out of a already terrifying man. He even admits that, that looking at this guy is terrifying. So I'm what? This is intense. It's scary.
Put yourself in his position. You're reborn into a different world.
I would walk away.
You come into this world with previous knowledge of things in media that are similar.
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky enough to get another life. You have that quality about you that you're inquisitive enough to even be yet? What do you mean? That these things in your previous life so far, your reincarnated life has benefited you every like step that you've taken. You're following Man God, who has helped you save your family, who is like,
But
who
Man
didn't
God
warn you
never
about this.
advised him here.
And the fact that he didn't would probably, if I was in Rudy's
that leads
position,
Rudy to feel more comfortable with
Yeah.
the happenings here, because
Everything's gonna be okay.
if something bad was going to happen, Man God would have warned me.
There's some
That's
sense
a
of
really
security.
great take. I didn't even think about his sense of security
Mhm.
here might even be tied to Man God.
Yeah.
The Man God would have probably appeared to him in his sleep the night before this.
Don't go
to
down
be
that
like,
path.
Don't go down that, or don't engage.
Yeah. And then, like, think about how quick things are happening, too. Like, we haven't gotten there yet, but, like, once the name Man God's brought up, too, like, you're not even... We would hear if Rudy was thinking about this extensively.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, yeah, just putting pieces together.
Yeah.
Like, Rudy doesn't hear the soundtrack that we're hearing. He didn't see the events before they happened like we did, you know? Yet...
I
don't need to know
think
that.
I just died a little bit when he said, "Please wait." You know,
Yeah.
I think I just was.
No,
a
I
little
get
bit like, you're gonna give me a heart attack, dude.
And then I'm really liking Orsted's character, weirdly enough, even at this point.
Well, I mean,
Because-
character design super cool.
Yeah, but like
Also,
I like
the companion super cool too.
I like his like dialogue, right? It's in Naruto it reminds me of Zabuza and I'm a fake fan. But Kirish, gosh, I'm a fake fan, sorry. But I like that he's like, who's your father? And like he's trying to pinpoint who Rudy is. He's a big question mark to him too. Like he's
Because
not going right
he
out the
probably
gate
has
attacking.
No sense of, obviously, if Orsted can literally look at a person and know exactly who they are, then he's going to be suspicious of Rudy, you know, automatically. Which he was, but he wasn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah, and I like the little bits of internal dialogue we do get from Rudy, because that gives us more idea of the pacing that this interaction's going with, where Rudy's at mentally. Like, to Rudy here, there's no immediate threat, right? He's like, oh, who is this person? How does he know? Like,
He might
you know?
even just think that this man is just unbelievably strong, but not necessarily a danger.
Yeah. And then, look, Orsted, he's the man. He has, like, consideration towards other people's desires. Ruby Druid's like, don't come any closer. And he's like, okay, I won't. Like, he just stands still again. I see that you look me in the eyes. Oh my god, he's so cool looking. I'd love to stop. The look in your eyes is terrifying. Rudy's being charming, you know, himself.
So what do you want?
Oh, well, I thought you might know something about... Okay, here
This was another point of issue I had with him. I'm like, a scary stranger is asking, what do you want from me? And you're actually gonna, like, ask for something from him?
So, this is where I'm a little more sympathetic towards your points, because it's a big question to ask somebody... as opposed to, do you know... Oh, you know of my two sisters. That's weird. Do you know where my mom is? Do you know where I could find her? Do you know where Sylphie is? Where I could find her?
That'd be great, as a locator.
You might know something about the Mana Disaster. That's a trigger to Orsted,
Yeah,
you know?
like, dude.
I don't. I see. I'm sorry I bothered you. But Orsted, like, I'm so interested in his character for a couple of reasons once we're about to get to. But, like, I feel like morally, he is, like, trying to figure the shit out, too, in his own way. I see. I'm sorry I bothered you. And then something has set Orsted off other than, like, what does the character of Orsted have to know or have to be thinking right now for his next question to be, does the word man god mean anything to you?
He's probably trying to think to himself, how could there be a person that I don't have any sense of and don't know of in this world that knows that these are the specific questions they're asking? They're not scared of me. It's obvious, like, that the curse on me isn't working on them. Like, maybe man god is one of the first, like, influences he would think would be had on Rudy.
I think it's the term mana disaster. Like, I think that Rudy thinking to question that gave Orsted
if he
something.
had anything to do with it?
Yeah. Like that's his next immediate question after Rudy's trying to, like, leave the conversation. Or it's like he was like triggered by it. Like, oh, I wonder if he has like a part to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like Rudy's kind of like shocked, right? He's like, oh, it does. He appears in my dreams. That like,
But okay, that was another point. Why does he so easily like accept telling someone about this? Normally he's much more calculated, and I would feel like we'd get some inner dialogue of him being like, should I tell this person that I know Man God? He's already been keeping Man God a secret. That's why I was like, whoa, when he said this.
But didn't we get last episode or the episode prior his like thought process for why he wouldn't be telling Rui, Jerd, and Eris at the moment about Man God?
But he's
it was too much to
they're
explain.
there.
Exactly.
But they're there.
So, but him having the thought process of it, how much it would be to explain,
goes away if someone asks directly about it.
Well,
to
no,
him?
I think it lets us know that Rudy isn't opposed to telling Eris and Rui Jerd about Man
He
God.
just thinks it's too complicated.
Especially, like, for the moment it is. Or maybe it's not even too complicated, but like, oh, I don't want to have to go through all this shit unless I have to. And the name, just like off the bat, like, I get what you're saying.
But there was also this warmness to him when it does! He appears in my dreams! And I was like, why are you so happy? Is it because he's so elated that there's a connection here? This guy knows of Man God, and he feels like a little less alone, and he feels like maybe he's putting some pieces of a puzzle together.
Yeah.
But this whole interaction, I wanted to just pick him up and like put him somewhere else.
Well, me like feeling like, okay, at the end of the day, things will probably be okay narratively. Probably reassured me here that I'm like, oh my god, keep asking questions.
See, that's funny because I still thought that, I still felt that, but I was also just like, don't do this.
Yeah. So one thing was going through my head this entire time, right? And also, I guess, is part of the reason why I'm very like Rudy defender here. And we didn't get the term yet, but we knew dragons. We know that this guy is incredibly powerful, and we had his first name. I immediately thought back to season 1, episode 9, when, it could be episode 10 too, when Man God is talking about Dragon God, and he called him wicked, but he's better at reincarnation. I was like, if this is the Dragon God, could he have some thing to do with Rudy even being here at all?
Or is Man God and Dragon God somewhat of rivals in terms of like reincarnation?
Yeah, would
be a reason why he would want to kill if Rudy is Man God's apostle. I think that's the word, apostle of Man God. Then if you're an apostle of a rival to Orsted or someone that Orsted hates, that makes sense that he would want to kill him.
It seems like Orsted, like by his temples, have like scales that light up.
Very nice.
So like cool, dude. Such cool character design. And then I love that he's like, I always thought you had potential, but you lack polish to Eris.
Right.
Like, I think that he didn't come across as a villain to me.
Right.
Maybe
no.
No,
he doesn't. He comes across it similar to, you were right when you were saying that it's almost like a similar path possibly to Rui Jerd. Like there's this, and especially when we get Man God's conversation later on.
Yeah.
About like, and Rudy's reaction is, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like that he can like sympathize at least with Orsted and feel bad for him, that everyone, no matter what, is terrified of him because of these curses put on him. Like I said, I am not at any time complaining about anything that transpires here. All of it is just emotional, silly.
Yeah.
Rudy, don't get
like
hurt.
Lighthearted, don't open the door.
Totally lighthearted. Like,
don't cause something to happen.
Yeah. I'm not like...
Don't cause an altercation, right?
I'm not against the possibility of Orsted being maybe actually a really great player in all this, and maybe even a character that we can connect to once we wake up, because obviously we learn by the end of the episode that there's some wiggle room there in terms of friendship.
So like in terms of real world, what this isn't to me is like, if you ever like are out with your friends or something and some other dude or like strangers just being rude and says something like out of pocket and just fucked up, and it's just like, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to antagonize him and then start some shit, right?
What's that called?
What?
That's called something.
Well, whatever it is, that is not what I, like, vibed out here early on, right? Like, it wasn't just, like, starting shit. It was, like, there's purpose to this, right? Like, it's, like, and, like, nobody's done anything wrong here. Like, from what we can tell yet. So I had the sense of, like, security and, like, wonder and, like, mystery. And, okay, one of my favorite parts of this entire episode is after he has apparently been a huge Eris fan, like us all.
Yeah, which is great.
Acknowledging the polish that she has had.
But obviously, we already know from this episode that she's grown a great deal because now she has, like, the respect of Ruijerd even more.
Yeah, but my favorite part is when Rudy looks back to Orsted. I'm going to continuously make sure I don't get that name wrong. He sees flashes, like, using his eye, of what is going to come, right? But Rudy's reaction, his, like, quick, like...
it's so
it's
wild.
And, like, the expression on his face, like... It's so well done, dude.
It's so vivid to him, imagining himself dying in that way that, gosh.
It's so cool. Like, just hats off to this show. Like, it
felt very realistic for someone who gets, like, would get a flash of their own, like, death or own, like, major injury. It fits so much that he's almost, like, checking his body in that instance to make sure he's still alive. Even though it's so scary that he can't even remember in that moment that what he has is the foresight eye.
Yeah.
And that it's not something that just immediately happened to him because what he saw was so real and so scary that he just immediately goes to check his body.
It's one of the reasons why I'm, like, so obsessed with the show. But him being able to see forward into Orsted's attack is that breaking and defying the restriction that is put on him so that Man-God cannot see him in the present and the future.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
does the demon eye let him exceed the limit of,
Who led him to get the demon eye? Man-God. Man-God might be a possible rival of Orsted or hated. They might hate each other. And if Man-God can't see Orsted because of curses, he might choose to bring someone from another world that could maybe someday defeat Orsted for him, or, you know?
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. And then before you die, give the Man-God a message. Dragon God Orsted is going to kill you.
Which has always been a question of me, if Man-God has, like, an actual body, or if he is just in the form of more of a spiritual being.
Yeah.
But by how he appears in the dreams, it's almost like he's transmitting himself into Rudy's dreams, which would then make me feel like he does have a physical body.
Yeah. Do you think Man-God can see Rudy's present and his future? And in this interaction, he couldn't, and it was, like, noised and distorted because Orsted was there? Or do you think, like, obviously he has to have some future, like, seeing ability to be able to guide him the way that he has. But, like, the way that he talks about Orsted and, like, as wicked and stuff, it doesn't seem as, like, clear as how Orsted is, like, I'm going to kill him. Rudy didn't, like, convey that in that urgent of a, way.
I really like that question of, we already brought up in discussing of whether Man-God would have known that we were going to have this interaction with Orsted. And when you bring up the fact that Man-God gives advice on things for Rudy to do in the future in order to do or obtain things, what does it appear to Man-God? This white noise static? Is it something where Man-God doesn't actually see, like, day to day, moment? He just more can, like, bigger steps, bigger picture items. And he can more just have a feeling, oh, if you do this, this will happen. You're not actually, like, looking in on someone's life and, like, zooming in the actual details. Because maybe he just sees it as, oh, Rudy just saved Lilia and Aisha, and now he's going here. And then there, he's gonna do this. And it's more of, like, a summary of events and not, like, an actual timeline, and here's some haze that he can't see through.
To me, it's like, okay, like what I'm thinking it is right now is like if you imagine a chess game and you're watching a VOD of it, right? So it's like for chess.com, you see you don't see any people or anything. You see the board and you see each side's movements, right? And if you're watching like a VOD of that, you're seeing like it play out until the end of the game. In my opinion, that is how the world is predestined to go with one match. But there exists people in this world that are gods, and each god, even though that there is a predetermined path that they might be able to see, they have the ability to reach onto the board, move a piece whenever they want to, and then the rest of the game is going to change according to that piece being lost. So I wonder if Man God has this vision of what is going to happen with Rudy, but at this point in time, just from happenstance, from walking each other's path, Orsted is able to rearrange the pieces and like potentially he could have like taken Rudy off the board here, and that could have been completely different from the destiny or the fate that Man God was seeing, because Orsted would have that ability or that power of a god, you know? He super interesting. I love world building. That's no secret. But, like, this has opened up the floodgates.
Yeah. I think my main question is we already, in the last 2 episodes, had dialogue with Man God in terms of, like, should we actually really trust him? And then we can recall that Man God has said that Orsted is wicked. Dragon God is wicked, evil. But then we get, at the end of this episode, a happening that wouldn't fit with someone who's inherently, like, deeply evil and wicked. Yeah. So that opens up the question again of, can we truly trust Man God?
Yeah.
Is Man God's, like, usage of us and motives actually, like, good?
Yeah. So, talking about a little bit about Orsted's, like, ability and his knowledge of Ruijerd and Eris. So, if you have the ability to see, like, your future even, right? Or to, like, know what might happen in the interactions to come, you perhaps wouldn't know everybody's, like, what everybody's doing and in the entire world and all their lineage. But the thing that you might do is look ahead, see the interactions with characters that are going to be important and crucial and might cause a stink in the future, and then work backwards. He knows of Ruijerd and Eris. What if, like, he, in the future at some point, will have an interaction with them in some grand state that
knows
has
that
led
they're going to
him...
be important for some reason.
That has led him to look back and, like, see where these characters are at play now and be like, oh, Eris, like, I know that you end up somewhere, but you like, and you have great potential, but you didn't seem polished, so I didn't see you getting there, like, at any point. Like, it's such an interesting point of view.
But of course, he would have a lack of understanding of how they would get where they are, or why they would even be connected if he can't see Rudy.
Yeah. Oh my god. I haven't met them yet. It's such a...
But what he might think of Eris and Ruijerd, he would be seeing what they would have been like as if Rudy never existed. His idea of their future might not even actually be accurate at all. If he only believes the Grey Rats were supposed to have 2 daughters, then that's all his knowledge of the future might have been before Rudy even entered this world. And so anything Rudy has affected or changed is something that can't be known by Orsted, possibly.
So that is super interesting, because that opens up one of 2 possibilities. Number 1, if Rudy was never a part of this world, would the Mana disaster still have happened? If it did, would Eris still be in the same place where she was, so that she would be sent across into the demon world, where Ruijerd would befriend her, they'd go on with their life, and at one point probably meet Orsted? Or Orsted is able to see the events play out with Rudy always in the world, but when it comes to Rudy, it's just nothing. Like, in every vision or interaction he imagines with Eris and Ruijerd, there's that, like, third spot that nobody's ever there. In Paul's family, it's just, he's never there. He's just like an outlier of information. He can never see anything. He's almost like a god to Orsted in a similar case. And I wonder if that is more akin to what's going on here, completely and solely based off of Nana Hoshi. later in the episode.
Or this line. He's on par with Lapis.
True. Yeah.
I don't remember where that was said, but I wrote it down.
I think it was within the interaction with Man God.
Okay.
But maybe.
I thought Orsted said it. Or
maybe.
Nanahoshi said it.
No, you're right. I think Orsted did say it. We're going to get there in a second anyway.
I didn't remember where it was, but that also felt
right.
like it was a big line.
Definitely.
For the future.
I love that, like, on Death's Door, Eris is trying to use the magic that Rudy taught her. And that in itself, that kind of, like, I think, surprises Orsted. I wonder if in his, like, vision, he
would have never
used magic. Yeah. That would be so cool. And he's like, what?
I mean, honestly, that would probably be what would turn his attention at all.
Yeah.
Because if obviously he thinks there's no way Eris could defeat him.
Fate's changing.
But he's at least intrigued enough to turn and look at her as she does this.
Yeah.
Which could be because his interest is piqued by the fact that she's even using magic.
This wasn't how the page was written.
Yeah.
You know, but I needed to, so one of my favorite things that never happens is, like, on Death's Door, for a character that you know a lot about, but you don't know too much about their abilities, they're going to use every
ounce
play in the book,
yes,
right?
And every ounce of themselves.
But everything that, like, every off-screen training bit that we've never gotten to see come to fruition. Like, this is, like, everything refined that Rudy's thought out that we have yet to be able to see because he's on Death's Door. But before we get to see it, if Rudy and his staff had his staff and it was, like, uncovered, would he have had a better shot in this fight?
I feel like the staff is more just for looks.
It enhances it, right?
Does it?
I'm pretty sure.
I know Eris, but I don't know if Rudy's magic works the same way as everyone else's magic in this show. Like, it might enhance or, like, bring together and gather mana for others. I don't have the first
3 episodes in this book.
But I don't know how it necessarily would actually work for Rudy, because he is an outlier that I don't know if all the rules would actually pertain to him.
Yeah. But his ability here, it's like
he can do a crazy amount without the staff and always has been able to.
Yeah. It's like a drill. It's like a drill bit that's so spinning crazy. And, like, getting sharper and then turning hot. Oh my god, it's so cool, dude. And that's the sign, right? Incantationless magic.
Right. Which I think later on... Okay, did Man God give you that power?
Do you think he did? I don't think he did. Maybe he did, but
I mean, that opens up the question of, is Man God really the one that brought him here? We don't know completely for sure, because when we ask Man God, he's like, well, I think it was either the Dragon God or something was better at it.
It's
better at reincarnation.
Yeah.
So why would you say
Episode
that 9. Upon being asked if you were the one that did this? Suspicious. I don't know. Question mark.
Disturbed magic. What the hell?
To just completely
nullify it.
Get rid of his flame every single time. Put it out. That's crazy.
And, like, the things that are going on not on screen are, like, what I'm thinking about right now. Like, does Orsted have, like, okay, I'm holding this, I'm focusing this on his right hand, so his right hand cannot use any magic. Because obviously, right after this, Rudy goes under himself to, like,
which is funny
push
because,
himself
like,
back.
if someone has their hand out and their other hand, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
And they're using magic, which to me, Rudy was at all times maybe distracting.
Yeah.
With this. I mean, Rudy studied magic books. He probably knows that disturbed magic exists.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah.
He probably knows all of the different types of magic he could use. I mean, I know he studied specific ones because of the books he had, but this is his way of life in this world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe knew that existed, and as soon as it happened once, then he decided to use it as a fake out in order to hide his other hand.
Yeah. I thought that was super creative. He gets a little bit of acknowledgement. You're a crafty one. And then Rudy, oh my god. He uses, like, magic to lift up the rocks,
and
to, like, props himself up. Oh, I love this show. Orsted uses his, like, I don't even know, man. But this is when Rudy, like, goes, like, Rudy knows he's in an anime, right?
Yeah.
Like, he condenses a fireball and magic into some shit that turns purple.
It's this fuchsia crazy thing.
It's like, it's taking over the entire room. Oh my god, it's so good.
and then it blasts off.
The animation's so good, too. Open. Front worm gate.
Yeah.
I
So, a barrier.
It's like I guess, yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Which, why would you put a barrier up in the first place if you weren't a little bit wary of this person?
Well, yeah,
you know?
It feels like, okay, I'm going to take this a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, like it seems like a more serious step.
Like,
because if he's like, oh, you're crafty, oh, you're this and that, and he knows nothing about this kid, and he's now thinking this kid's linked to Man God,
yeah.
you know, he'd be like, well, why would Man God link himself with a kid that's not you possibly powerful or strong? And so for him to, it's almost like a compliment that he does this worm gate.
Yeah. It's like akin to sitting up straight and playing video games with somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take this seriously, then I'm gonna pull out some stops.
Like, this is something always up in a serious fight Orsted has, you know, and he's just bringing it up now in regards to Rudy. And it starts cracking a little bit, too. What an incredible quantity of mana.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's very specific language, right? It's just the sheer, amount.
He might be on par with Lapis.
What was it?
In terms of mana quantity?
Lapis was the demon god who wiped out humanity.
The one that gave the spears to the Superds.
Yeah. Is Rudy the reincarnation of Lapis? I don't know.
That'd be wild. I mean, that'd be interesting in terms of Man God forcing a connection between him and Ruijerd. Even more, that would be like, huh.
Is,
Are you thinking something crazy and that's
is
why you're
Geese
smiling?
Lapless? Geese was born on the demon continent. Demon god, no? He might be on...
Geese.
Yeah, dude, I mean, Geese could probably take out Orsted, let's be real. The look in Rudy's eye, like when he's like on death's door and still using this, and like,
it's almost like that was it was a large a quantity of mana. It almost gives the feeling like that was, he literally sent out all that he had left in a last ditch attempt.
And how interesting.
I know. Okay, I wanted to talk about this too. Okay.
Why don't you use incantationless magic to heal your lungs?
Which we've always thought that, like, his healing magic, he uses words.
Incantations.
And I'm like, why? We still don't really know why. I mean, he was born to his mom. Healing magic was her thing. But if he was never meant to be born from her, then that could mean that he doesn't necessarily have his abilities because of who he was, you know, who were his parents.
But there has to be something here because of how Orsted handles the situation, right? It's like he's surprised by it. Like, I think that if Man God had given him the power of incantationless magic, because that's the thought train that Orsted's on, he would be able to use healing magic incantationless.
Yeah.
And one thing, we only got a little bit of Orsted this episode, but I feel like I'm already getting a piece of his character here because this connects with something that happened earlier. And that is when Nanahoshi interjected. Like, Orsted is on a train of thought and then is dismissive. And then after that dismissiveness, later on, Nanahoshi says something. But what is he dismissing here? It doesn't matter. Die. Like, the thought that he can't use incantationless healing magic.
It's that is interesting that Orsted's character, he was so willing to continue to walk away and not have a conversation with Rudy and not get to the bottom of it, that it takes, like, what Nanahoshi says and then Rudy yelling, please wait, and having more of a conversation to get him to interact even more. And then we know that this character already has interesting feelings in terms of other people because of the curse that's been placed on him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have maybe good feelings about Man God. He's intrigued, but he already was saying that he didn't need to do this here. He didn't need to kill him. And then the look on his face when he's like, it doesn't matter, die. It could possibly be read as more than just a angry, I'm gonna kill you now kind of knit brow. There was something about it in the way he was also, like, I don't know, the facial, how it was tilted and how his brow looked, I didn't really feel totally terrified this guy's about to kill Rudy by that facial expression.
It was like he was connecting dots and then just like stopped his train of thought. And
like,
was like, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost a kind of like sad, resigned, like something to it. There's just something to it that didn't feel like bloodthirsty die.
I loved that just going on, like Eris was like asking for anybody to help. When she said Ghislaine, I was like, yo, if Ghislaine comes out like of a fucking icicle right here, like I would lose my shit. It wouldn't make any sense.
And
but
Ghislaine
like it was
would
heartbreaking
use the fireball too, and that'd be
it was heartbreaking at the same
circle.
time because then you realize like how serious this is to somebody like Eris, right? But this is when the fucking Nanahoshi, dude. Is it a guy? Is it a girl? Is it neither?
We've all experienced this, Naruto. I don't think we can know for sure.
Yeah. Listen, Orsted, something's been bothering me. So, okay, already, before we go any further, like, I have to say something, right? There's the implied importance that Nanahoshi is to Orsted from just walking with him.
There, yeah.
There is the lack of fear from Nanahoshi, which potentially implies and is safe for us to assume that Nanahoshi is not from this world in a similar way that Rudy isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least doesn't have that curse.
Would that make you think that Orsted was so lonely that he brought someone from another world to, like, be his friend?
Or, aw, that's kind of sad. I was thinking more like, why aren't you afraid of me? And Nanahoshi's like, I don't know. Like,
oh, like he met upon her like on chance, and
like
she wasn't
why
afraid
can't
of him.
like a what if Rudy was instead of Nanahoshi?
Gotcha.
Like why can't I see this? I didn't expect to meet this person.
But then we also know that it's like Orsted with the reincarnation comment from Man God. I'm like, dude, what does all this mean? What am I supposed to think here? Who reincarnated these people?
What would Nanahoshi have to say to Orsted to get him to heal? Like, would it be like, oh yeah, he could be one of the cursed children? Like, why? What
has been bothering Nanahoshi?
Yeah.
What was it that bothered Nanahoshi? Because Nanahoshi triggers Orsted to act a little bit more. Like, is it okay to just leave it?
Yeah.
You know, and walk away? And now, again, changing kind of the track. It's almost like Orsted was fine to walk. Nanahoshi says something. Orsted turns back. Orsted's fine to walk. Nanahoshi says something. Orsted turns back.
More specifically, like Nanahoshi's first interaction or interruption was in regards to Rui Jordan Eris's meeting of Orsted. It's like, if we do go by your logic, potentially, that he is able to see this world before Rudy had ever entered it, this could be enough information for Nanahoshi to be like, no, things aren't adding up here because this isn't when you're supposed to meet them. Maybe you should interact with the situation more. I think that that could lend itself more to what your idea is.
Like, maybe he's not supposed to die here, and Orsted was like so willing to be like, not yet.
Maybe he's not supposed to be here, you know? Like, it's weird that he's here at all. And it could be enough for him to be like, okay, maybe it's different with the man god thing. Then we get Rudy going back into his original body, interacting with man god.
Yep.
Why is he here? You know? Is like unconscious. Man god was like, oh my god, I couldn't see you. Something happened. I need to like, I don't know.
Well, right before Rudy passes out,
that was a shame.
It sounds like he's trying to not die.
Yeah.
Like, internally, he's trying to use whatever he has left in order to survive. So it could be said that he's not actually dead at the moment and that he is currently, for this minute, unconscious, about to die.
Yeah.
And that is why Man God's able to talk to him here and, you know.
Man God being, like, acknowledging what happened, though, kind of answers a question that I brought up earlier about, like, oh, is it just white noise right now for him? Like, I think he's able to see it. And then he questions about Rudy's, like, mental state right now. It's almost like Man God's, like, worried that, like, he lost a bit of Rudy. Or, like, is like, just check, are you still the same? Like...
Well, I think something that goes along with that is that before, Rudy lived a life that, upon his death, did not feel satisfying at all. Like, and then Rudy kind of resigns himself here, like, well, you know, this time, I have some unfinished business, but I think I just got unlucky this time. Like, he has a different attitude even toward death.
Yeah.
Because of he liked the life he lived, and he felt like he did some good things.
It was like the teachings of Stoicism, like, it's out of your control. What's out of your control and is just luck at the end of the day, you shouldn't spend time thinking of it because it's out of your control. Only focus on the things that you can physically, you know, maneuver. And
there's a much healthier outlook I think he has here, because I think he realizes that what he got as a second chance, it was more fulfilling and more satisfying, and he did a better job at living life.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, maybe that was just like my time, and, you know, where's the gate to move on? And obviously that could be worrisome to Man God, because he wants to continue to use Rudy for whatever means to the end.
Yeah.
It exists for Man God. But I did find that was really important for kind of where Rudy is now, in terms of, like,
in his internal, like, where he is.
And his connection to the life that he's living. He was so disconnected in his prior life from people and from living. And now, to even be at almost the gate of life and death, he's like... I mean, even when he first comes into this life, and his first chance of really being met with death and severe injury and blood is intense, like, fear.
Yeah.
But now he's like... there's this growth that's happened, that he has some love for the person that he is now, too. And there's an acceptance of the bad things that can happen in life, and you know, there's some things out of your control, which before, anything that was out of his control terrified him to the point that he never left his room.
Yeah, and I felt like some, like, comfort that he had. I feel like he thought that Eris and Ruijerd were going to live, like, and he was like, okay,
right. Their injuries didn't seem to be, and honestly probably weren't life-threatening. I think he's the only one that has to be healed.
Yeah. And then when Rudy's like, why the second that I said your name did Orsted attack me and try to kill me, and did kill me? And then I love the consistency of the use of the word wicked, because that's the word I have written down in episode 9. But just immediately, he's the wicked dragon god, and I'm good. So he's got it in for me. Like, oh, I'm good. Don't worry about me, bro.
But, like, also think about it with what we just said about Ruijerd and Eris's current state. It was never on Orsted's, like, mind to also kill them. Yeah. The only reason he fought them and they got hurt is because they jumped in front of him just trying to kill Rudy and be done with this whole interaction.
Yeah. And then he said that he can't see anything present or future about Dragon God now, right? Like, now he has that limitation, because that's what the curse on him does.
So before that curse was placed on him, Man God could.
Yeah. There are these weirdos called cursed children.
Which I'm sure is going to come back.
Orsted is one of them. He's got about 3 other curses too, so that's 4 in total. You saw how scared Ruijerd and Eris were of him. I think that's another one of his curses. I think that curse is a great term for it, because that's what it feels like. It's not like an ability. It's not a stat boost. It's something that you're burdened with.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, because we get not only given the fact that if he didn't have these curses, he would be top. He would be number 1. He could destroy the world. But we also kind of get this dialogue interaction of, like, comparing him to Ruijerd, when it's like Ruijerd never actually had a curse. He only that, like, you know, could never be broken or needed to be broken by some magical means. Ruijerd just had the unfortunate kind of negative press about him, and negative thing that happened in his past that informed some sort of gossip and lore around his character that has potential to be undone through hard work, which is totally different from a curse.
So 2 of the 4 we have, right? The not being able, people not being able to see his present or his future, and then he's hated or feared by every living creature in the world. That's 2 of the 4. Everyone hates him. I love
Rudy's reaction to this.
Because, like, he knows that sounds like. He knows exactly what that's like. It must suck. He immediately has sympathy.
And he has it. He came into this world with no ability to connect or sympathize or empathize
Yeah.
with anyone.
And-
he was very internal minded and he wasn't able to do any of this, but through what Man God has given to him and
Yeah.
the places Man God has put him, he's met Ruijerd and he's felt for Ruijerd, he's cared for Ruijerd, and he's cried for Ruijerd and
Yeah.
Ruijerd's situation.
And then that leads Man God to be like, the curse doesn't affect people from other worlds. Like, oh, okay, that's what made me think that Nanahoshi potentially is from a different world too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's because Nanahoshi didn't seem afraid of Orsted.
Or Nanahoshi's also cursed.
Maybe. One of the things that it's gonna take me a couple watch throughs is like the curse with Ruijerd and how that it affects with the green hair and the shaving the head, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
That to me was like, is it the type of curse where it's almost like that it needs to resemble the person the curse was like meant to be placed on, and
Yeah.
that's what you can get away with is putting it onto them because maybe the Superds looked exactly like him.
Yeah.
He had green hair and that's it. Because, I mean, what if you were just like, this curse is for people with green hair? That's mean.
Yeah. You know who I think Rudy would get along with? The Technique God. Like, knowing like how much technique Rudy has and uses and how like well thought out he is in battle. Don't you see that going well?
I mean, maybe Rudy needs to be trained by the Technique God. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some interaction. I mean, why wouldn't there be interaction with the number one Technique God if we're now meeting Orsted and we have Man God in our dreams?
Yeah. And they said that if they really fought for real, that Orsted would still win. That's crazy to me. I mean, I died, right? I should consider myself lucky that I got a second life at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Man God's like, well, you thought.
But there was a line that was also there in that interaction that I wrote down. What are a few lies against that? Like, what are a few lies against all of the good that Man God has, like, helped and advised Rudy to be able to accomplish? Like, he's saved some of his family members, and he has helped with Ruijerd's reputation. Like, just a few little, like, not telling or not being forthcoming with all the information is nothing in comparison to what Rudy has actually been able to accomplish in terms of the people that he loves.
Yeah. Which is really... I wonder, even after this interaction, if we ever have another one with Orsted, where does Rudy's curiosity lie in terms of, like, what Man God has done for him, how he feels that way, versus, like, the other opinions of Man God and how strong they must be if they led to, you know...
And is this the first time we've had an interaction with Man God in that dream space that Rudy hasn't once thought about the body that he was in?
Yeah.
Because I even believe that last time he was like, why do you keep making me see this body? It makes me feel like shit, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But in this interaction, he didn't once think about the form that he was in. It wasn't even a topic of conversation. I think maybe he talked about his past life, but nothing about being forced to be in this body that he hates.
Yeah. He's, like, coming to terms with himself and who he is as a person and, like, beginning
He's more focused on his internal, like, his actual, you know, it doesn't care about, like, the physical anymore, and he's out of his own body now. He's more focused on interpersonal relationships and connections and life than just being so self-centered focused.
Does that fear of death come from shame? Like...
Maybe.
That you're ashamed of stopping
From
now.
regret?
You're not proud of like that the product that you are right now. You have more work to do before you're okay to say, okay, I don't need to do anymore. Like,
Wonder. The fear could be tied to, like, a regret or the unfinished business. I mean, he does say he has unfinished business, but it also seems like he is able to have an awareness of, like, what good he has done and what has been what has been a benefit to him in comparison to a life that he lived that was horrible. Like, this is so much miles better. So
it seems like growth and peace of mind are somewhat synonymous and interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Some self-love too.
Yeah. This was a really, really good episode.
This was a really good episode. I mean, I think we had a lot to talk about, and that's a testament to how good the episode was.
Yeah, I'm so glad what this did for the series too. It was already.
I mean, it was turning point
so
too.
great. Yeah.
If it hadn't been something that we wanted to, I'm not shocked when you hear the like episode title and we think about like how much we've wanted to talk about for this episode. It makes complete sense that with that title.
Little behind the scenes, like breaking the fourth wall. So what we do on Crunchyroll specifically, because that's where we watch this show, is we have like the previous episode full screened, and then you can hit next episode, right? Mm-hmm. And regardless of if you hovered or not, no telling.
Yeah. It doesn't show you like the bottom.
My thing is like, if there is a turning point 3, will we be able to guess it before we get the title card at the end? Like in the midst of an episode, if we see the budget go crazy with the animation and like all these hard hitting like world building facts, are we gonna look at each other like halfway through the episode and be like, turning point 3?
And I wonder if there's some editing choices that are similar. I don't believe the first turning point had a foreshadowing aspect at the beginning where it was like, hey, this is something that's happening later on in the episode. I don't think it did, but I could be wrong. But I do wonder if there's also some other clues other than just what's being given to us information wise or talked about, or emotional growth.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even the number of episodes in between. It could be. I don't know.
Now I have
but
questions
this
about
was
that.
good.
It was good. All right.
Okay.
That's all I have you.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.